Hi, boys and girls.
We're at our secret garage. Let's see what we're driving this week. It's a 2016 Ford Explorer. We also tested a pair of Lincoln SUVs. We'll have a link for those tests at the end of this video. I think this is a nice looking rig myself. Pretty much from any angle. When I got this vehicle, I had two reactions. Number one, I was glad to get it because I want to do some off-roading, which we ended up not doing. I'll cover that in the video later. And secondly, my jaw almost hit the ground when I saw the price tag, which we'll show you right now. $55,355 smackers. I kid you not. Yes, there are stripped models that start around $35,000, but this is anything but stripped. This is the exotic Platinum edition with a fancy EcoBoost engine and four-wheel drive. And lots of leather interior. We'll cover all this later on in the video. First thing I want to do is cover the headlight system and see how it works in the dark. And we're going to cover the interior lighting system as well. It's dark enough. Let's see what these headlights do. Here we have a building 100 feet away with the lights on low beam. A little low, but plenty of light. High beams more than adequate. Here we have the high beams on a building 300 feet away. Lights up quite well. Low beams just barely make it. Overall, the headlights are very good. Now we'll take a look at the interior lights. Almost all vehicles have lights that automatically come on when you open the door, and almost all vehicles have a disconnect switch that can kill the lights if you open the door, except on this vehicle. The doors are open, the lights stay on, you can't shut them off. I've tried. I went through the owner's manual, every button, the doors are open, the lights stay on. I do have a comment about the interior lights. On most cars, the interior lights will automatically come on if you open the door. But then again, on most cars, there's a disconnect switch that can turn off the interior lights permanently, whether the door is open or not. I've spent a week with this car reading the owner's manual and trying every button there is, and the simple fact is, as long as the doors are open, the lights stay on, you can't turn them off. If you're camping at night, this can be an issue because the lights can destroy your night vision and attract bugs and insects. That's why I like to have a vehicle where you can shut off the lights permanently if you wish. But apparently that's not going to happen on the Ford Explorer. Also, the owner's manual says you can disconnect the cargo light by pushing this button. I found that not to be true. Go figure. I suspect that 99% of Ford Explorer drivers really don't care if the lights can be left on or off. But we're testing the car, and it's a feature I just have to show you. Drunks are out again. The base engine is a 3.5 liter V6 putting out 290 horsepower. $1,000 more, you get a 2.3 liter turbo putting out 280 horsepower. This is the twin turbo EcoBoost, 365 horsepower, rated at 16 to 22 mpg. And all these fuel economy figures are based on the four-wheel drive version. Two-wheel drive, you get about 1 or 2 mpg more. Visually, this is a nice looking cabin. Even more so because we have the upgraded version with all this nice leather. There's plenty of room in the second row seating, in this case 2 bucket seats. You have 2 small third row seats for small kids or chipmunks, controlled by these automatic buttons. Yes, there is a spare tire under there. We get a nice gauge cluster with lots of useful information. I'll point your attention to the fuel economy. I've been driving this for 4 days, mixed city highway, 14.6 mpg. Okay, I was pressing the throttle more than I should have been. So shoot me. A medium-sized glove box. Very simple controls for the navigation, climate control, and stereo system, although I'd like it better if some of these controls and buttons were larger. I mean, there's lots of room on this panel. You could make these twice as big and it wouldn't affect too much. If you like using gloves when you drive in winter, this might be an issue. But not a deal killer. I only had one beef with the cabin, and that's the wheel well, which is the narrowest I've ever seen on a production car. Unusual for a car this big. Plenty of room for the right foot, but I want to put my left foot over here, and I keep rubbing up against this. I have scuff marks on my shoe even after 3 or 4 days of driving. So I don't know what's in here. It must be important. It takes some getting used to. And it's very odd, I think, but that's just the way it is. But on the positive side, I'm glad to see that the doors come all the way down to the bottom. So when you get in and out of the vehicle, you're not rubbing on the bodywork and not getting dirt on your pants. So I'll give a thumbs up for that anyway. Okay, question of the day. Can you take this vehicle off-road? Well, we have a nice four-wheel drive system here. Normal, sand, mud. Just click the dial for your preference. And yes, we do seem to have some excellent ground clearance looking from the side. Unfortunately, we have an air dam on the front of the vehicle that cuts off half your ground clearance. Even if you remove the air dam, there is a big scoop here. I think that feeds the turbochargers. You can't remove that. There's some plumbing down here that's hanging rather low, so if you go on a rough road, this is the first thing that might get smashed, so you have to be careful. The bottom line is, yes, you can take this off-road, but only in a limited fashion, and I'm just not going to bother because Ford likes getting their vehicles back in one piece. So it's going to be street driving for me for the rest of this test. Enough about looking, let's get to the driving, and this engine definitely has lots of torque. Passing power galore. Just floor it and go. Oh yeah. Perfect brakes, by the way. That was fun. I think I'll do that again. I think 0 to 60 comes close to around 6 seconds. You think maybe this is why I'm only getting 14 to 15 miles to the gallon? Yeah, probably so. Hello. By the way, the steering on this vehicle is electric, which is usually a bad thing, but actually it has a pretty good feel. Feels hydraulic, so it's not an issue. The overall handling and cornering ability is excellent. We have good weight distribution. Pretty hard to spin it out. A lot of other car reviewers are telling us what a smooth ride this vehicle has, but obviously they didn't have these monster 20-inch wheels and tires. They're big, they're heavy, and they pound the living crap out of the car and make a lot of noise on rough pavement. It's an ideal killer, you get used to it, but a smooth ride, not with these wheels and tires. On the expressway, the car is very solid and relatively quiet, but again, those tires thumping and groaning becomes rather annoying after a while. But I'm having so much fun passing these slow pokes with this engine, I don't worry too much about the tire noise. I said earlier that the EPA rating on this is 16 miles per gallon in the city and 22 on the highway, and you can get that if you drive normally. I've been leaning on this turbo a bit more than I should and driving in heavy city traffic, so it dropped down to 14.1. But don't let that scare you off. You can do better. Just drive a bit slower. Here's my take on the Ford Explorer. Personally, if I'm going to get an SUV, it has to have very good off-road capability. If not, I'll just settle for a car. So vehicles like the Ford Explorer and Dodge Durango, low ground clearance vehicles, don't interest me personally. On the other hand, most of the American public doesn't agree with me because Ford is selling lots of Explorers and Dodge is selling lots of Durangos. Apparently, a lot of people don't go off-road. So if that's you, the Ford Explorer is definitely worth looking at. And while I did find the 55 grand price tag rather shocking, there were plenty of other Ford Explorers on the dealer's lot in the mid-30s, and even less if it's a month-end sale. So don't let the price scare you off. So if you're looking for a large SUV to drive on the street and haul the kids and groceries around, the Explorer is definitely worth a look. If you'd like to see the video tests we did on the two Lincoln SUVs, here's the link for that.